سيدنا ومولانا ومرشدنا وحبيبنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين ما بعد. My dear respected brothers, elders, honorable mothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah, we thank and praise Almighty Allah who has given us all the ability and tawfiq to gather in His blessed house and to participate in this gathering of ilm, gathering of knowledge. And it's incumbent that we keep reminding ourselves of our intentions, as the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentions, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. Actions are judged according to their intentions. So whatever intentions we have come with, or we remind ourselves of right now, according to them intentions, Allah will reward us and we will benefit from this gathering. And ultimately we remind ourselves that Allah has the quality of being Al-Hadi, the one who guides. And we as believers have a responsibility to seek guidance. And seeking guidance, one of the ways of seeking guidance is to sit in the gatherings of the ulama and the mashayikh and to benefit from them. Because ultimately they are the inheritors of the Anbiya alayhi salam. And especially us in this masjid, alhamdulillah, there's many events taking place regularly, and inshallah we need to increase, and so many more that we need to organize and do inshallah. But many places don't have this luxury. When I was in Wales, the masjid we were in was the only masjid for a 40-mile radius. And it was 4 hours away from Birmingham. It wasn't easy to invite scholars to come over there to come and deliver a talk. And we have them on our doorstep. We have Sheikh Jalal, we have Mawlana Riyadh, our imams, and many other ulama in our vicinity and in close radius to us. So we should ask ourselves, how much do we benefit from them? And just to go on to the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where he mentions that seeking one chapter of knowledge. So today we're covering Zakat, inshallah. Seeking one chapter of knowledge, the hadith mentions, is more virtuous than 1,000 rak'at of nafil salah. Subhanallah. So this is a responsibility that all of us have, and amongst the intentions that we should make is that we are here for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We want to remove ignorance from ourselves with regards to zakah, which is a pillar of our deen, an obligation that we owe to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And thirdly, we remind ourselves that whatever we learn, inshallah, we will bring into our lives, and we will teach to others as well. Teach our children, our families, and our friends and relatives and those around us, so that we can create this awareness and this knowledge can be revived, and we can spread this in the ummah, inshallah. So, our guest speaker, Mufti Hanif Patel, Hafidhullah, is one of my teachers, alhamdulillah. I benefited from him when I was studying in Blackburn, in Jamiat al-Ilm wal-Huda, which is the Darul Uloom where Mufti Hanif teaches. Alhamdulillah, is a lecturer there. And alhamdulillah, we had numerous teachers, but ahsibuhu wallahu hasibuhu. The hadith mentions when you do say something about someone, especially words of praise, we remind that Allah, this is what I think, and Allah is the one who's going to take us to account. But Mufti Hanif was one of those teachers that we were always able to approach and speak to. And some teachers have that demeanor, or that ru'ab, which we call. Alhamdulillah, Mufti Hanif wasn't like this, and we were always able to approach him and speak to him, ask him about our questions or any issues we had. And this is one quality that I really liked in him, alhamdulillah. Even now, I keep connection with him, alhamdulillah, and I always ask for guidance and advice. And Mufti Hanif studied in Blackburn, and then he's been teaching for a number of years in the same madrasa, and he's involved in many other projects in Lancashire and other places also. And in between all of this, mashallah, Allah gave him the opportunity to leave everything and go off to South Africa and study the Ifta course, which is what we call the course to become a Mufti. And this, he had the opportunity to study with Mufti Ibrahim Desai, rahimahullah, who passed away just a few years ago, 2 years ago maybe. So Mufti Ibrahim Desai is the founder of askimam.com, which is a famous website that many of us probably read about. And so Mufti Hanif studied there under him, alhamdulillah, and got to benefit from him. And Mufti Hanif also runs his own website called Ask Our Imam. So in the UK, we can ask our Imam. So he has his own website, alhamdulillah, and many other projects he's involved in. May Allah accept all of them and grant steadfastness, and may Allah give us the tawfiq to benefit. So jazakumullah khair to all those who have attended. Many of us have registered and some of us may not have, but alhamdulillah we're here, and Allah give us the tawfiq to take full benefit, inshallah. Ameen, jazakumullah khair.
الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وأقيموا الصلاة وآتوا الزكاة. صدق الله العلي العظيم. Dear respected brothers, sisters, listeners, I greet you with the greeting of Islam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We begin with the name of Allah Azza wa Jal, our creator, our sustainer, and we send our salutations upon the world's greatest human being, our beloved Prophet Muhammad Arabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad kama sallaita ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidun Majid. Allahumma barik ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad kama barakta ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidun Majid. So bi'idhnillahi subhanahu wa ta'ala, in this 1+ hour or so, we will be discussing about zakat. We will discuss about the meaning of zakat, the significance of zakat, and how to calculate zakat. But in covering this, insha'Allah, we'll have a dialogue and we'll interact, and I will need your support. Say insha'Allah. So there'll be some activities, some work for me, and there'll be also some work for your side, insha'Allah. So let's start it, insha'Allah. If anyone needs me to reiterate and repeat anything, then by all means. What does zakat mean? There is a dictionary meaning and linguistic meaning, and the other is the technical Islamic term. The linguistic meaning is purification, tazkiyah. Just as there is the purification of the heart. وَأُحْضِرَتِ الْأَنفُسُ الشُّحْ. The heart has been ingrained with the love of many things, including money. So when a person gives some charity in the path of Allah, it's purifying the soul from the greed of wealth. So in giving away charity is the purification of our nafs, purification of our soul, growth and blessing. Allah says, يَمْحَقُ اللَّهُ الرِّبَى وَيُرْبِ الصَّدَقَاتِ. If I'm accumulating riba interest, my bank balance is increasing. And if I'm giving charity away, my bank balance is decreasing. But Allah says no. Ultimately, the riba and interest will result in reduction and decrease in wealth. And giving in charity and zakat will result in growth, blessing, righteousness, praise. Indeed, righteousness and praiseworthy is the person who gives zakat. It's the third pillar of Islam. Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, Bunya al-Islamu ala khamsin. That Islam is founded upon 5 pillars. The testimony of faith, the establishment of salah. Thirdly is ita'u zakah, the giving of zakat. And then the fasting of the month of Ramadan and the pilgrimage to the house of Allah. In 28 places in the Quran, Allah has said, Aqimus salah wa atu zakah. And salah is the first thing to be reckoned on the day of judgment. And it shows the significance of enjoining salah and giving zakat. What is the technical meaning? To pay a fixed percentage of particular wealth to the deserving poor. This is obviously a very basic definition. What do we mean by fixed percentage? In general, 2.5%. Ad-Deen Yusr, religion is easy. We see there's taxes, 20%, here and there, 2.5%. Imagine our salah. Even if you assume every salah is 30 minutes, combine 5 prayers, 2.5 hours. So in a whole day, 20+ hours for our own selves, and 2.5 hours dedicated for Allah. 11 months dedicated for our own bellies and stomachs. 1 month staying hungry and thirsty for the sake of Allah. Pilgrimage only once in a lifetime. Ad-Deen Yusr. Deen is easy. Allah does not make us responsible for actions which are beyond our control and capacity. So 2.5% in the path of Allah and the remaining 97.5% for us. So it's a fixed percentage of particular wealth. Now we will be covering, what must we give 2.5% on? The clothes we're wearing, the house we're living in, the car we're driving. So what exactly do we have to give 2.5% on? To whom? To the deserving poor. Who are the deserving poor? Inshallah, they'll be highlighted. Allah's Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam said that whoever Allah has made wealthy, yet the person does not give the zakat and the wealth in the path of Allah, the same wealth will be turned into a bold snake. It will have two black spots and it will entangle and encircle the individual. It will bite into his jaws and it will say, Ana maluk, ana kanzuk, I am your wealth, I am your treasure, of which you never gave zakat of. So the wealth of which zakat is not given will not be for us, but will become against us on the day of Qiyamah. May Allah forbid. Thereafter, Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam recited the verse that withholding the wealth should not be seen as good. Rather to give away is better. It's worse to keep and hold to wealth. Their necks will be encircled by the very wealth which they had hold onto on the day of judgment. Now let's move on to the meaty, gritty stuff. The masail, the laws of zakat. Who needs to give zakat? Now there will be some technical differences between the schools of thought, between the madhahib. But you will see that the majority of this will be based on the Hanafi school of thought. When here and there, when there are difference of opinions, it will be expressed, but nevertheless, the huge chunk will be based on the Hanafi school of thought. So who is responsible to pay zakat? Muslim, adult, sane, wealthy. Non-Muslims are not responsible because they must pray the kalima first. So the person must be a Muslim. Secondly, adult. What do we mean by adult? Baligha, mature. Now if that means a child becomes baligh at the age of 12, 13, 14, fine, we may not categorize them as adults, but they're responsible for their wealth. If they have enough wealth, for example, 500 pounds in their bank, in their pocket or so, once they become baligh, once they turn mature, they will be responsible. As for the other schools of thought, they say even if it's a small child, 5 years old, 6 years old, 7 years old, if they have enough money, what do we mean by enough money? We'll discuss that soon. Let's say for now, 350 odd. So if they have 350, every year they will have to pay 2.5% of whatever they have on the zakat date. Nevertheless, according to the Hanafi school of thought, Muslim, adult, so there is no zakat on 8-year-old, 9-year-old, even if they have thousands in their bank. And sometimes they are saving trusts, saving accounts, and they may be 8,000, 9,000, 10,000, but there is no zakat until they reach puberty. Same. If a person is majnoon, is insane, they are not responsible. And lastly is wealthy. They must have enough wealth to be classified as wealthy in Sharia. So who's classified as maldar, ghani, rich in Sharia? The person who possesses money equivalent to nisab or more. Nisab is the minimum amount after which a person is regarded wealthy and must give zakat. Now there are two sorts of measurements. There's the gold nisab and the silver nisab. The gold nisab, some of the people may know it as Sare-Sat Tola Sona, 7.5 Tola of gold. Many of us may not appreciate Tola, so it's equivalent to 87.48 grams. So if someone has 87.48 grams of gold or money equivalent to how much that amount would cost, then zakat is compulsory. That's according to one measurement. According to another measurement, it's Sare Bawan Tola Chandi, 52.5 tola of silver, which in grams is 612.36 grams. So either if you have 612.36 grams of silver or have money equivalent to it, you're regarded as wealthy in Sharia. So you will have to give 2.5% of whatever you have once a year. Now obviously, as you can see on the screen, there's a massive difference between both the calculations, between both the sums. Now at the time of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it was almost the same. 612.36 grams of silver was equivalent to 87.48 grams of gold in value. But as time passed on, you can see the disparity and the differences between the values. So now we're confused. Which sum, which amount will we use? Because if you use the 87.48 grams of gold, 1 gram of gold is 49 pounds 90 pence. And this is something I checked today online. And the value may fluctuate, but here and there, a pound or 2 pounds here and there. If you times that by 87.48 grams of gold, that is equivalent to 4,365 pounds. So you have 87.48 grams of gold, it's equivalent to 4.5 grand, let's say. But if you have 612.36 grams of silver, how much is that worth? 1 gram of silver is worth 55 pence. And if you times that by 612.36, that equals to, let's round it up because we'll be playing with this figure for some slides. Let's say 350 pounds for the sake of easiness. So can you see the differences between the two? So there have been some scholars who have adopted the gold to say 350 pounds is nothing. There's rent, there's bills, there's payments, there's contracts. So how can a person be regarded as wealthy if they have 350 pounds? So they've tried and adopted the gold nisab value to say zakat may only be necessary on you if you have 4,365 pounds. If you have anything less, you may not be classified as rich. However, the majority of the scholars still adopt the silver nisab. That means the figure of 336.79. So if you have 336 pounds 79 pence in your bank or more at home or anywhere and you don't have any debts, you're regarded as rich. Inshallah, we'll discuss in the next few slides what if you do have a couple of thousands of pounds but you also have a debt. So we'll discuss that. Let me give you an example, basic example. I have 500 pounds. So should I be giving zakat? Should I be giving zakat? Yes, because I have more than the minimum amount, the nisab, the threshold, 336. Okay. But I owe my next door neighbor 250 pounds. So I have 500 pounds, but I owe them 250 pounds. Will I have to give zakat now? No, because although I have 500, but I owe someone 250, so there's a debt upon me, so I can minus. So now, although I have 500 pounds in cash, but what really belongs to me is 250 pounds, and therefore it's below the nisab level. It's below the 336 amount, so therefore I wouldn't have to give zakat on it.
Just one quick point. Do you have to intend to pay that 250 pounds? So you know you've got a debt to your neighbour, but you're thinking, well, that 250 belongs to him. If you're not going to pay him, let's say within the next month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months.
Okay, good question. Inshallah, we will be discussing about that because the short-term and long-term debts. Some of the debts cannot be minus. However, there are many debts they could be. So inshallah, there is a particular slide about the debts and we will discuss that. When could it be minus and when can it not be?
500 in your example, do you have to have that for a year?
That will be discussed as well next. Because that's quite important. There's a misconception. That's why it's important sometimes the discussion, because even if it's discussed later on, it will help me to elaborate on it and for people to stay tuned in. And because there's a many misconceptions. So for example, people assume that the whole year has to pass by on, for example, every penny and every pound for zakat to be due upon it, which is not necessarily true, as we will learn in the next slide. So if a person only had gold, then they would use the nisab equivalent of gold, which is rarely the case. Who only has gold? But if someone has some cash, some silver, some gold, then we will use the silver nisab, silver equivalent. How do you find that out? Either you can find out the values by going to the local jewelers, or you can go on websites, Bullion Post, and there's other websites you go on and you find out the value of a gram of silver or gold, and use that formula, and that will tell you what the nisab is. Similarly, there are different websites, Darul Fiqh, Ask Imam, and other websites. If you were to go on, daily it gets updated. And they would tell you what the Mahr Fatim is, Mahr Azwaj Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, what's the nisab, etc. So if you're ever struggling, you can either use this formula, and if not, you can access these websites that will give you the formula. Okay, paying zakat. Just like we have a birth date, you have a wedding anniversary date which you can never forget, lest you forget, but similarly, there should be a zakat anniversary date. Also over here, many people are confused. People assume Ramadan will come, people will collect charities, so we will give our zakat then. This doesn't suffice. There has to be a set date throughout the lunar calendar on which you will calculate your zakat and give accordingly. Yes, you can prepay zakat. You can give in advance. For example, your zakat date is 15th of Ramadan. They were raising funds in Turkey, in Syria for the earthquake. So they were asking for zakat. So although your zakat is due, let's say next month, you can give in advance. Nevertheless, when your actual date will come, you will calculate and ensure that you've given enough. Had you not given enough, or some is still outstanding, then you would top it up and give accordingly. So zakat anniversary date. Now what is this zakat anniversary date? We've already established that in the whole lunar year, not the other lunar year, Islamic year, there should be a single date which you will use every year to give your zakat. Either you will already have a zakat anniversary date. I will explain how. And if you don't, from this moment, you should set a date. Ramadan is always easy for everyone. So it could be 5th of Ramadan, 10th of Ramadan, 15th of Ramadan. A single date now, from now onwards, every year you will calculate your zakat. Now really everyone should already have their zakat anniversary date. Why? Basically, the moment a person becomes baligh, mature and adult, and the first time they receive money equivalent to 350 pounds, they would have to note that down. For example, it was the 6th of Ramadan, it was the 7th of Muharram, it was the 21st of Rabiul Awal. Now a whole year afterwards, on the same date, if they still have money equivalent to 350 pounds or more, they will give 2.5% of what they have on that date. We'll do a calculation, but that's what zakat anniversary date means. That when you reach maturity, the first time you receive money equivalent to the nisab. Now how many of us remember that date? Majority unfortunately don't. So there's two things. Number one, we must educate our young children, so that when they do become mature, alhamdulillah, sometimes they have hundreds and thousands. If so, you need to mark that date. What's the Islamic date? If they don't have enough money, then at least when they do receive, on the occasion of Eid or in Ramadan, any other occasion, when did they receive money equivalent to 350 pounds or not? Or whatever the nisab was at that time. Now, you won't give the zakat then, but we will give the zakat a whole year afterwards. Now we will discuss in the next slide. However, the fluctuation during the year does not matter unless a person hits zero. So for example, a child becomes baligh, mature, and he receives 500 pounds. First of Ramadan, noted. Now it's obvious he'll spend some money. He may gain some more money, spend some money, gain some more money, spend some money, gain some more money. But as long as he doesn't lose all the money away, it doesn't matter. Now the first of Ramadan, the next year, we will see, does he still have 350 or more, nisab or more? If he does, based on what he has then, he will have to give 2.5%. But there's a slide after this, inshallah, which we can discuss then as well. Yes, sorry. Sorry? A person can't unless they've just forgotten and they can't remember. Yeah, then for example, that's why if it's the 21st of, for example, Rabiul Awwal, now for the rest of their life, as long as they don't hit zero, it will remain that one single date. Unless a person totally forgets, which unfortunately many of us, then just choose a date from now if you can't recall and stick to the date. And we will understand why, hopefully in the next point, why you need to have a date. It's calculated according to the lunar calendar. I understand for some businesses, some people, it may be better to choose April or a particular month or so. Nevertheless, we must give zakat according to the lunar calendar. It should be given as soon as possible. It shouldn't be unnecessarily delayed. It can be given in advance as long as we give the right amount. It's a snapshot calculation. What does snapshot calculation mean? It means you have to give 2.5%, as according to the Hanafi school of thought, of what you have on that zakat anniversary date. It doesn't matter how much you had spent in the last few days or few weeks or few months, and it doesn't matter when you received that money. Let's assume today, 1st of Ramadan. Yesterday, 2 days ago, I only had 500. Last night, someone came and gave me 500 more. Now, on my zakat date, how much do I have in total? 1,000 pounds, yeah? But I've only had that 500 pounds since a day, last night. Still, I will have to give zakat on it. Because zakat is not compulsory on the wealth that you've had for a whole year, but it's year to year, as in zakat anniversary date to zakat anniversary date. We'll have an example on the board, inshallah. Individual obligation. It basically means that, look, generally the husband and wife may work out their zakat, the husband may give on behalf of his wife, but wife is responsible for her own zakat, husband is responsible for his own zakat. Similarly, parents sometimes give zakat on behalf of the child. Again, once that child who has turned mature, he is responsible for his own. Yes, if the father tells the child, the 15-year-old, and he makes intention, then it will be valid. If the father assumes, he's my son, he calculates his zakat according to what's in his bank and gives away without telling the child, the zakat will not be done. Because zakat is an ibadah, and the ibadah requires niyyah, and he's not made niyyah of giving his zakat. Similarly, the husband thinks he's doing a favor to his wife, give her a surprise, give her zakat on her behalf. I'll surprise her when Eid comes or so and tell her, oh, I already gave you zakat. But if she wasn't notified, she won't have made niyyah intention, and as long as intention isn't done, zakat hasn't been performed. Similarly, if there are two business partners and they have 50-50 share, each is responsible for the zakat of his own share. Unless they both come together and they both work it out and one gives the other the permission to take 2.5% of the entire business and give it in charity. But it is an individual obligation. Some of the work for, alhamdulillah, you people now. Zakat calculation. 13th of Ramadan, 1443, I have 200. I'm not going to give anything away right now. 15th of Ramadan, 500. 5th Shawwal, 250. Whole year passes by, 13th Ramadan, 1,000 pounds. 15th Ramadan, 700 pounds. 5th Shawwal, 300 pounds. Now I'll give you half a minute. When will I have to give my zakat? And how much zakat will I have to give? 2.5% of what value?
yeah.
Yeah? Okay, so 13th of Ramadan, 1443, he only has 200. That is not equivalent to nisab, 350 pounds. 15th Ramadan, 1443 is 500 pounds. Will he have to give zakat? No. Okay, no. The first time he receives nisab equivalent, he doesn't give zakat, he just notes the date down. Because that's when he's received nisab equivalent or more. Now, one whole year later, i.e. 15th of Ramadan 1444, now on that day he will see whether he has nisab equivalent or not. So now he has 700. Can you see? He spent money, he gained more money, that doesn't matter. It's a snapshot calculation. 700 pounds. Afterwards he even loses. It doesn't matter. 15th Ramadan 1444, he will give his zakat and he will give 2.5% of not what he started the year of, not what he had in between, what he has on 15th of Ramadan 1444, i.e. 2.5% of 700. Go on, quick maths. Is it? I'm going to trust you on that. £17.50. So that's how to calculate zakat. What must I give zakat on? This is again very simple, very easy. I'm going to ignore crops and livestock. It's only money, gold or silver, and business assets and investments. And if you don't have business assets or investments, money, gold or silver. Some people may not even have gold or silver, only money. Now this slide is quite important because now whatever we will do afterwards, we'll come back to that. I'm going to ask you some questions. And for you to answer those questions, you'll have to go through the checklist. Is it livestock? Is it crops? Is it business asset? Is it gold or silver? Is it money? If it doesn't fall under those things, then there's no zakat. Let me ask you some questions. Is there zakat on your clothes? Why? Why not? So I'm also using the gold or silver, I'm using the money.
It's not one of those categories.
So use this formula. You will tell me it's not money, it's not a gold silver, it's not a business asset. Business asset, the definition of a business asset is important. Business asset is something you buy with the sole intention to sell. Here the definition. You buy with the exclusive sole intention to sell. So for example, your house is on for sale. Is that a business asset? No, because you never bought it with the sole intention to sell. So your clothes that you're wearing, it's not money, it's not gold or silver, you never bought it with the sole intention to sell. Obviously it's not crops and livestock. What about diamonds, rubies, precious stones worth thousands of pounds? Is there zakat? Diamonds. I've got a very confident nod there, here and there. Okay, diamond. Is it money? Is it money? Is it gold or silver? No. Now, is it an item that I bought with the sole intention to sell? It may not be. So it depends on the intention. So for example, I don't know if there's some people over here, but some people are very passionate about their watches. So I used to know someone who had 15 watches or so, each of them is worth $2,000 or so. So if you looked at those 10 watches and you total the sum, the value, it could be worth 20,000 pounds or so. But was there any zakat on it? As long as it wasn't cash, obviously it wasn't money, there was no gold or silver inside it, and the person never bought it with the sole intention to sell it. So it's not a business asset. So there's no zakat on it. Let's go through some examples. On the side, obviously, we've provided zakat is only on cash, gold or silver, trade assets, livestock, crops. Each of them, inshallah, will cover them in the next few minutes. But these are just basic examples. So there's no zakat on a house purchased to live in. Imagine you've got a house and it's worth £1 million. Do you need to give zakat on it? No, it's not money. It's not gold or silver. You never bought it with the sole intention to sell. It's not crops, livestock. A land purchase to build a house. You purchase a house here, back home, it's worth $500,000. But it doesn't fall any of those categories. Furniture, fittings, you've got machineries at home, you've got devices, you've got 3-4 cars, and each car is worth 10 grand. Is there any zakat on it? No, because it's not money, it's not gold or silver, it's not a business asset. You never bought it with the sole intention to sell it. Yes, everyone must have at some point assumed that I'll drive it for a while, a year, 2 years, then I might sell it afterwards. That is not a business asset. That's why the definition of business asset is you buy it with the sole intention to sell it. Motor vehicles, personal clothing and items, computers, phones, okay. I buy a house with the intention to give it on rent. I buy 5 properties, I will give the 5 properties on rent, and I will receive the rental income, and I'll retire in an early age, inshallah. Now what? Do I have to give zakat on the properties? I have 5 properties, they're each worth, let's say, $250,000. Not that I'm so rich, but yeah. So will there be zakat on those 5 properties which have been given out on rent, and I'm receiving the rental income? So we've got a split. People of the right and people of the left. Huh? And people of the middle, they're stuck between both sides. Okay, no, there's no zakat. Again, the reason being is, these properties are not money, they're not gold or silver, it's not a business asset. Business asset is something you buy with the sole intention to sell it, and you're not selling the house. So therefore there's no zakat on it, livestock, crops. Yes, if you receive the rental income and you still have it when your zakat anniversary date comes in, then along with your money in the bank, at home, hidden under the mattress, in your pockets here and there, you'll also include this money and you will give 2.5%. But there's no 2.5% on the whole value of the property. Unlike you're a businessman and you buy a house to sell it. You buy, you sell, you buy, you sell. Then obviously if your zakat date comes and you've got 5 properties, you will have to look at their selling price. That how much they will be sold for, and 2.5% on the value of each property. Yes? Oh, sorry. Okay, so now if your intention changes, it will no longer become a business asset. Similarly, if you bought it to live in, but now you want to sell it, it doesn't become business asset. Business asset is only that when you buy it, you've got a sole intention to sell it, and you're still intending to sell it. Okay, multiple intentions as well doesn't classify under in Sharia business asset. So it's fine. Because it happens, sometimes you'll buy a property, my son's going up, I might give it to him, or I might give it on rent. If I get a good bid, I might sell it off, or we might just move. So sometimes this is possible, so it will not be a trade asset.
Land that has been purchased as an investment. So in Pakistan you might get 2-3 plots of land and then you sell it on after 2-3 years.
So yes, so then it would have to be given. Then 2.5% on the selling price of it. Yeah, that's why. Yeah, it has to be at the time of buying your intentions. If your intention is unclear, then there's no zakat on it.
And just building on that one, so if those couple of plots have been bought with intention to build a house,
Yeah.
later on we'll sell that and then keep it one big house, then what the ruling says?
So you will buy the land and you'll build the houses on it and sell them.
It's like okay, we buy a couple of plots here and there,
Yeah.
but the intention is to sold that at one point of time, or let's say 3 plots, and then build a house. Maybe somewhere else. Use that money, build one house.
Okay, so you buy the plots and then you sell the plots and get the money and buy a house.
That's the intention from the day one. So we have like this one money, let's say today I have let's say 10,000, I bought something, tomorrow I have 20,000, I bought something, and then after that I have some money, I bought something.
But the intention is to buy the plot to sell the plot.
Not to sell the plot, but to sell for the purpose of building a new house.
But even then, but it's still a trade asset. So yeah, it's because you're buying that to make money on it or to after selling it. So regardless of what the purpose is afterwards, it doesn't matter, but that is a business asset.
Do parents have to pay zakat on children?
Not nabalig. If they're nabalig, if they're little children, like according to Hanafi school of thought, there's no, even if they have 10,000, as long as it belongs to a child, even the child isn't responsible, even the parents are not responsible. Yeah. Yep.
Like already have the house we are living, but if we purchase new land for purpose of house, or let's say 2 houses, we want to purchase that.
Still it's fine, there's no zakat on it. It only becomes an issue if a person wants to receive zakat. For example, they've got 2-3 properties, they may not have cash in their pocket and they want to receive zakat, then we'll say a house is beyond your necessity, your basic needs, and therefore sell it off, you can't take. So it's only an issue when receiving zakat, but not in giving zakat. Yeah.
So when you buy a property, depends on the intention. So if the intention is to sell, then you pay the zakat, and if the intention is to build, to rent, then it's not income.
Yeah. If you still have that rental income at the time of your zakat anniversary date. Now inshallah, what we'll do is in the next few slides, we'll go through each of them. What we've covered, I'll try to be quick, otherwise obviously we can discuss. But there's some activities for you to do. What must I give zakat on? All the cash that you have at bank, at home, haram money, you won't give 2.5%. Why? The whole 100% should be given away. But you can minus the debt. What type of debt? That will come later. Okay, what about the money that's owed to you? Now remember this formula and inshallah it'll become easy. I have 10,000 pounds on me. I am owed money. It belongs to me. I will have to give zakat on it. So you have to give zakat on the money you have and the money that you are owed. But is it all types of money you are owed? No. Only 2 types of money. Number 1 is personal loan, and secondly, the business asset that you sold. Any other money owed to you, if you don't receive it by your zakat anniversary date, you don't need to give zakat. Let me give you a few examples. My next door neighbor, they were having some renovation, they needed 5,000 pounds, I gave them 5,000 pounds. My zakat anniversary date has come. They've not returned the 5,000 pounds to me. But do I need to give zakat of that money? Yes, because it's a personal loan. And personal loan, as long as you have hope it will be returned to you, you have to give. Whether they will give you tomorrow, or 1 year later, or 2 years later, or 5 years later, you have to give 2.5%. Now, if they're going to give it to you after 10 years or so, then it is possible that you wait until that time when you receive that money, but then you'll have to calculate the zakat of all the last 10 years. So, if it's not burdensome, then although you don't have full possession of it, because next door neighbor still has it, calculate it every year, 2.5% of it. So, it's the money that is owed to you because of a personal loan, qarz. Secondly is the business asset. So for example, I'm a businessman, I sell sofas, I sell beds, and I have different types of supplies, and they buy and purchase from me 50,000 pounds worth of beds. They've not paid me yet, it's outstanding. My zakat anniversary date has come. Do I need to include the 50,000 they owe me? Yes. Personal loan, money you expect to have received. Number 2 is credit sales, money owed for selling business items. Now, any other money that you are owed, do you need to give zakat of it? No, not now, not later, not until you receive it and your zakat date has come. Let me give you an example. I'm working, alhamdulillah, I've worked for a couple of weeks or even a couple of months, but I've not been paid my wages. My wages will be paid at the end of next week, and my zakat anniversary date has come. So I am owed 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 pounds because of service, but I'm not paid yet. I'm owed that money, but I'm not paid. Do I have to give 2.5% of that 3,000 pounds? Why not? Why not? It's not a personal loan. It's not money that is owed to me because I lent money. I never lent any money there. And secondly, I didn't sell them a business asset. So therefore, it's not money owed to me because of selling a business asset. These were services, not a commodity, not a business asset. A famous question, inheritance. Many a times, someone passes away in Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, elsewhere, and the heirs and the rightful people are in England. They've got a share, they've got a right, 1/3 of what has been left in the estate. But they've not traveled there yet. It's not been distributed yet. It's only been few weeks. There's a lot of technical and legal work happening. So they've not received the money yet. They are owed that money. They will be receiving £30,000, but they are not given the money yet. So when the zakat anniversary date comes, will they be giving zakat on that £30,000 they are owed out of mirath inheritance shares? No, why? It's not a personal loan. It's not the money that is owed to them because they had lent someone money. And it's not money owed because of a credit sale, because of a business item sold. There's many other examples there as well. And similarly, you lend someone £5,000. Now every time you try and chase them up, they're running away from you. They don't respond to your calls. They don't respond to your texts. You've lost all hope. £5,000, you're not going to get it. Do you need to include that in zakat? No. Although it was a personal loan, but if you can see the money you expect, if you lose all hope, then you don't need to give any zakat on it. Yes, if 10 years later they make sincere tawbah and they come knocking at your door, this is the £5,000 that took me so many years ago, that's fine. You can take it, but you don't need to calculate it for the previous 10 years. Outstanding wages, we've spoken. Kitabs have another example of a man marries a woman. He wants to marry her. He offers her 30,000 in mahr. And he doesn't have that loose money. And he promises. Now her zakat anniversary date has come and he's not given it yet. He says, I'll give it to you 2 years time. Now the zakat date has come. Will she have to include 2.5% of that 30,000? No, because it's money owed to her, but it's not a personal loan she gave, and nor is it a business asset she sold. A quick calculation. Now that's what we're saying, that you have the option to pay the zakat of it once you receive it in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years time. But you will have to calculate every year and give accordingly. So that'll be a big, huge sum, and you'll remember you won't. So if you've got the liquid, if you've got the cash, then just include it every year. So you don't need to worry when you do receive it. Ibrahim loves to travel the world, now has various currencies in his collection. Savings £500, $200, 1,000 rupees. Quick maths, $200, $2 if it's £1, not that it is, but that will be £100, 1,000 rupees. If 100 rupees is £1, so 1,000 rupees will be £10. So in total, to make life easy, how much is that equivalent of? £610. That's £610. Either you can give 2.5% in pounds, 2.5% in dollars, 2.5% in rupees, but that may be difficult. So just find out the value of these currencies on your zakat anniversary date. Once you've got it in cash form, in money form, then find out the total value, £610. So now he will give 2.5% of £610, which is? Quick maths. No? Chalo, as long as you get it there, it's going to be 2.5% of £610. Okay, let's move on to another, gold and silver. This is where some of the schools also differ. Other schools say if the woman were to wear it, there's no zakat on the gold or silver. It's only if it's stored. According to the Hanafi school of thought, whether it's stored or it's worn, there'll always be zakat on gold and silver. It will be many a time when a woman marries into a family, she will receive gold and silver and it will stay locked in the safe. The only time it breathes out is at the zakat date for 10 years, 15, 20 years. but she needs to give zakat on it every year. So there is zakat on gold and silver, whether it's worn, whether it's stored, whether it's in a form of a coin or jewelry, bracelet, necklace, in any form, zakat must be given. So any gold or silver, whichever form, zakat must be given. Also on mixed metal jewelry, even if it's 9 carat, obviously 18, 24 carat. So you simply find out what's the price of gold carat per gram and times it by the amount of grams. It's always easy to go to the local jewelers. Why? Number one, they'll wait for you. Secondly is, if you check the value online, that will be new gold. So the price will be high. And what you have is scrap. So that the value will be less. So you won't be giving extra zakat, obviously, unless you want to. So you go to the local jewelers, they wait for you, you ask the value and give 2.5% of the gold and silver one has. In a mixture of metals, you only give zakat on the gold or silver inside the ring, inside the jewelry. Calculate on the value of the resale, that if it was to be sold, how much money would be received in return. Now, there is a difference. Some scholars have gone with, look at the market value, but they don't say the value that you bought it for. Because look, the asal mas'ala is, whatever you have from money, from gold or silver, from business asset, you must give 2.5% of it. Now, if you're not going to give 2.5% of the actual gold away, then you must give the value of the 2.5% of the gold and value as it exists on your zakat anniversary date. There is no zakat on gold or silver which is stuck on the body and can't be removed, gold tooth. However, if it's something that can be removed, like for example a golden nose ring, then there will be zakat equivalent to the gold and silver. Use scrap gold value, there's no zakat on any other metals as we discussed before. Aluminium, platinum, precious stones, pearls, diamonds. Obviously, unless it becomes a business asset, you're buying to sell them. Yep.
What does that mean, scrap value? So it's not like what would be a full biscuit or something, it's just what it would be sold for.
Yes, but it's also saying that, look, if you were to find online how much is 1 gram of gold, it will tell you the new gold. But obviously now we've been using it, the value will drop because it's not first hand, it's second hand. So that's why you can use the second hand value and go to the local jewelers. Khadija has 20 grams of 24 karat of gold jewelry. She has 100 grams of silver jewelry. How much zakat? Is there zakat on her? 1 gram of 24 karat is 10. If she has 20 grams, how much is that worth in cash? $200. She has 100 grams of silver jewelry. 1 gram is 2 pounds. So 100 grams of silver will be 200. So 200 worth of gold, 200 worth of silver. Does she have to give zakat? Yes, it's more than 350 pounds. It's more than nisab amount. So she will have to give 2.5% of 400, which is 10 pounds. Are we sure? Okay, now we go on to the third. What must I give zakat on? Business assets. We've already defined what a business asset is. Business asset is that you buy it with the sole exclusive intention to sell it and the intention remains. I owe a shop. I owe a business. Remember I sold beds, sofas. Now my zakat date comes. What will I give my zakat on? Cash, the money I have in till, the money that's in the bank, the money that's at home. Receivables. Receivables is the money I am owed because of selling business assets. So as I said, I sold beds worth 50,000 pounds, I am owed that money. Will I have to give zakat? Yeah, we said the money that is owed to you, 2 types of money that is owed to you, you have to give zakat. Personal loan and business asset. So as a businessman, I will have to give zakat on the cash I have and the money I am owed because of selling items. Thirdly is the stock purchase with the sole intention to sell. So for example, the beds, the sofas which are for sale. I have a corner shop. I have to give zakat on the money I have, the money I am owed, and on the selling value of every single chocolate, crisp, sweet, milk, drinks, anything there is. I have a restaurant, I have a takeaway, there'll be burger buns. Now look, will there be any zakat on the delivery van? No, because I'm not selling the van. Will there be zakat on the factory itself? No. Let's say I was making chapatis and I invested in 30,000 pounds machine in making rotis. Will I have to give zakat on that value of the machine? No, because I'm not selling it. The only thing I have to give on the flour I may have, in a takeaway, the buns I have, or the kebabs I have, or the pizza bases I have, because these are the things that I will be selling. Now again, if the intention is that we'll use it for a while, we'll sell it at some point, then it won't still be a business asset. Because in the temporary, you're not using it as to sell. But in many cases, will be the case where, yeah, you are investing in a business until it grows and you think it'll make you a good money back. So you don't need to give zakat on it still. So stock purchase with the sole intention to resell and any investments that you may have. We'll discuss that investments, shares, etc. Now you look at how much money you would receive for it if you were to sell it. Because look, if I've got so many beds, I have to give 2.5% of the beds in zakat. So if I'm not going to give the 2.5% of the beds, I will have to give 2.5% of what I'm going to get in money for it. So in other words, there's no zakat on the land, building, machinery, equipment, fixtures and fittings, transport vehicles, any of that unless I'm selling those things. And also outstanding service receivables. So for example, I have a firm, I have engineers, plumbers, painters, wherever they exist, and they go and do all these jobs. So I'm still owed money. Will I have to give zakat on it? No. It's not a personal loan I've given, and I never sold a business item, a business asset. It's because of a service, so therefore it doesn't have to be included in calculating the zakat. We've already discussed this. So if you buy the property solely to sell it, there's zakat on it. If it's to live in, there's no zakat. If it's to rent out, no zakat. And if it's uncertain or 50-50, there's still no zakat. There's only zakat if the sole intention is to sell it. Quick calculation. Akib has a total amount of savings adding up to 10 grand. He has a mobile phone shop and a grocery store. Mobile phones cost him 8,000, but he's put them up for sale and he's expecting 10,000. Grocery store, the stock cost him 4 grand, but he's expecting 5 grand. How much zakat will he give? He's got 10,000 pounds cash. Agreed? Mobile phones, what amount will we take? Will we take the value of 8 grand or 10 grand? 10 grand. Not how much it cost him, how much he's going to make from it. And grocery store, do we look at 4 grand or 5 grand? 5 grand, that means in total, how much does he have? 25,000, 2.5% of 25,000, which is? No quick maths here. Okay, the next few slides are somewhat tricky. Shares. Now, if we understand this, inshallah, you'll understand what's there. If someone were to ask you, alhamdulillah, you attended the program between Maghrib and Isha, you learnt about zakat, I've got some shares. Do I need to give zakat on the shares? The first thing you will ask him is, what was your intention on buying? Was it a business asset? Buy, sell. Was it active trading strategy? Or was it a long-term investment? Sometimes you have money in the bank and you've had shares in the company for 5 years, 10 years, 50 years. Now, if they say their intention was quick buy and sell, then you will have to give 2.5% on the entire holding at the current market value. So you'll have to find out what's each share worth on your zakat anniversary date and how many shares you have. So times that value by the time of shares you have and then give 2.5%. There is a calculation afterwards, don't worry. But if it's a long-term investment, then you don't need to give 2.5% on the entire holding. This is where it gets a bit tricky. You only have to give 2.5% on the zakatable assets of the company. Remember what we said, zakat is on crops, livestock, business assets, gold or silver and money. So obviously if there's a business, if there's a company, they'll have land, they'll have property, they'll have vehicles, they'll have other fixtures and fittings. There won't be any zakat on it. So you only need to give zakat on the zakatable assets, the money they have, the gold or silver they may have, the business stock that they have. Now that may be difficult to work out. How are you going to work that out? So therefore, alhamdulillah, there are some ulama who have done a lot of work in this and pensions, and they said, look, we've looked at a number of companies, and their conclusion was that generally in these companies, the zakatable assets won't be more than 25% of the entire holding. So you don't need to give 2.5% of the entire holding, give 2.5% of the 25% of the entire. Which we'll go through an example of, but obviously there's an important note that it is impermissible to buy shares in companies that deal in anything unlawful. So therefore, over here, we're not endorsing, encouraging, or validating shares. That's a separate issue in itself. A person should go to a scholar and find out whether it's fine or it's not fine, etc. Sorry?
Savings in the bank for long term.
So you would have to still give 2.5% every year on the whole thing.
For the long-term investment, can you use the last available accounts of the company if they're a few months old?
You can, but then afterwards, if we have access to the amount they have on the zakat anniversary date, and if they've increased, then we'll have to add it afterwards. So even if it means after 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, you get access to it, so then add the extra. So you can use the previous one if you don't have access to the current one, but once you get the access to the current one, then you'll have to see where you've fallen behind.
So there is some company already in the market, just to give you an example there. So what they do, they actually provide houses for the people who are not taking normal bank loans and stuff. So what they do, they take you from your investment, so you are investing say 10K. So they are saying they also take the money from, because they are son of, of course they are son of, they take money from others for investment purpose, but their main purpose is to buy a house for me, for example. Now, what they're saying, like the only persons that they're giving the money here, the intention is to buy a house for them. Your money is buying a house for you. So your zakat making the, well, what will be the situation, because they have got their own zakat calculator, but I'm not sure about how they will calculate it. But what will be happen, because obviously this money, if you keep it for 6 months, because your money, still they are growing your money, but they're saying that I will give you, because I am giving other person houses, and your money is being invested on other houses, and you will be, they're giving rent on your investment, so from this rent you will get your share. Now, the two things, the guy who is buying the house, he is obviously only for his own living, because they're giving the house only for, you have to live yourself, come provide for that or like this. So they are saying it's not normal calculation, but I'm not sure what do you think?
I think I'll have to discuss that later, as in like try to understand exactly what's happening, because the reason being is these things, if they're misunderstood and someone says an answer to it without understanding the full structure of it, then unfortunately some people, because that happens, that's another thing, a lot of people may ask, and then it just depends on our own understanding. And then if a yes or no is given on these issues without having appreciated how it exactly works, and sometimes we may not even know. So therefore, inshallah, we'll discuss that later, exactly how it works. So this is, Adam has the following shares: 20 shares in GlaxoSmithKline, 20 shares in EE, 20 shares in BMW, 50 shares in HMC. Not that they have, but let's make it up. Everyone knows shares, yeah? What was it? Channel 224, what was it? Or am I very old or you people are very young? No one knows what I mean. To check the shares. I don't know, I can remember. Yeah, teletext, channel 2 or something. Either I'm very old, you're too young. I can still remember once upon a time. What cryptocurrency and Bitcoin is today for the youngsters, that used to be shares for other generation. But yeah, everyone was into shares. So 20 shares in GlaxoSmithKline. Each share is worth £5. So you times it by 20. 20 shares in EE, 1 EE5 times it by 20. 20 shares in BMW, £2.50 one share, times it by 20. 50 shares in HMC, one is £2, you times it by 50. Now the total amount will be 350. 350. How much zakat do I need to give? How much zakat do I need to give?
No, 2.5. No, because he's.
What was the intention? Was the intention like quick buy and sell? Then I will have to give 2.5% on the entire £350. That will be £8.75. But if my intention was long holding, then I only have to give 2.5% on 25% of £350. This is the only technical slide. After that it gets easy. Pensions. Now, obviously because of the time sake, I won't go through too much detail into it. But is there zakat on it or not? Now, if someone asks you, I've got pensions, is there zakat or not? The first thing to ask is it defined benefit or is it defined contribution? Defined benefit is mostly if you're working for the NHS, if you're working for the government, teachers, final salary schemes, that they'll see the amount of years of service provided and your final wage, and they will give accordingly. You have no control or anything, it's just the amount of money that will be deduced before you are given, and then after retirement age, you'll be given a set amount. And they'll calculate it based on the amount of years of service, etc. There is no zakat on defined benefit. You don't need to worry. It's only after retirement, once you have access to it, then you will give every year upon what you've been giving. But you don't need to calculate the previous 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. So there is no zakat. It's only once you access it, you'll have to stop giving it from that moment like the rest of your wealth. So defined benefit has no zakat. And that's fine also. Many of the ulama have said it's halal. Defined contribution is a question mark, which you will need to find out that is it halal or not my pension scheme. Number one. Number two is, again the same thing with shares. There is zakat. So for example, you choose an option, it's assigned, the pension pot is assigned to your name, and some amount of money is invested from you, some amount is from employer, and it grows. Now the pension pot belongs to you. Now whether you have direct access to withdraw that money right now or not doesn't matter. It's assigned to you. Now you will have to give zakat on it. 2.5% of whatever the pension pot holds on your zakat anniversary date. But again, not 2.5% on the entire holding. If you've seen the fact sheet, it's quite difficult to tell again. They'll have a breakdown of your pension is being invested in which shares, and whether in shares, whether in money, or whether different bonds, etc. Again, it's very difficult. It's very difficult to work out. So if you've got defined contribution and you need to give your zakat, zakat must be given on only the zakatable assets. Look, if you want to give 2.5% on the entire holding, that's fine. But what's necessary is 2.5% on the zakatable assets. Now that's going to be difficult to work out. If it is difficult, then you need to note this. This again has been after research of years and research of a number of fact sheets from pensions, that if a person, so ring them up, ask them, is mine defined benefit or is mine defined contribution? If you don't know. If they tell you defined benefit, you're all good. If they tell you defined contribution, then you need to see which option is it. Is it a direct property fund? If it's a direct property fund, then you only need to give zakat on 2.5% of the 15% of the entire pot. If it's a Sharia fund, then you only give 2.5% on 26% of the entire pot. If it's an equity fund, 2.5% of 27% of the entire. If it's a diversified multi-asset mixed fund, many of the times, that's 50%. 2.5 of 50% of the entire. And if it's bonds or fixed income, then on the 100%. But again, like we said, this isn't going into whether it's halal or not or something. This is just for zakat purposes. Let's go through an example. Taha has a pension fund valued £10,000. 50% is equities, 10% is cash, 30% is property, buildings they work in, and 10% is the other. Now the other we're unsure, will include that in zakat as well. So the equities, cash, other, now will he have to give zakat on the property? No. Only on the equities, shares, on the cash and the other. Cash, 10%, he will have to give 2.5% on the entire thing. Other as well. As for equity shares, comes the same thing. Because it's a long term, you don't need to give 2.5% on the full 50%, but depending, 25% also. So for example, over there we've done the value, 25% of, so if it's 10,000 pot, equities is 50%, 5,000. So 25% of 5,000 is 1,250, cash is 1,000, other is 1,000, total value is 3,250. So although your pension pot is 10,000, you only have to give 2.5% of 3,250, which is £81.25. Okay. If you're still struggling on pension, and we can understand, then online there is a number of researches written by Al-Qalam, Mufti Zubair Bhat. Similarly, Mufti Faraz Adam, he's done a lot of work. His research is there as well. Also, actually, he has a video on pensions. So there's a 45-minute or so video just explaining zakat on pensions. So if you just put Mufti Faraz Adam pensions zakat, it'll automatically come. And this is someone who's invested many years in studying, obviously, fiqh and studying various other markets and industries and Islamic finance modes and the whole industry. Okay, what can I deduct from my zakat calculation? As I said, I have £500. What can I minus? Overdue payment. What is already overdue? I'm receiving the outstanding bills. You have not paid your water bill. You've not paid this. I can minus that. Incurred debts payable within 12 months. What I owe in the next 12 months. So for example, again, without going into mortgage, whether it's fine or not, you wanted to buy a house. You took out a mortgage of £150,000. Without going it's right or wrong. Now the interest that you earn, you can't minus, and you can't minus that because that's haram. But otherwise, you can't deduce the entire amount of £150,000 that you took from the bank. Only that which you expect to give in the next 12 months. So it's obvious. People now, unfortunately, they'll get £150,000, they'll be going on holidays, they'll be living a luxurious lifestyle, assuming if we pay £10,000 every year, then we'll be able to pay it off in so many years, but there's no hurry to pay it off quickly. So they can't minus the entire sum, only that which they expect to give in the next 12 months. So for example, if they've got £20,000 and they took a mortgage of £100,000, but they're only expecting to give and pay £7,000 that year in the next 12 months, then they can only from that £20,000 minus the £7,000 and give zakat on £13,000. Also, as we said, personal loans. Now, many of the scholars have said for personal loans, you can minus the entire amount. The question someone was asking. So the mortgage is only the next 12 months. But the personal loan, your next door neighbor, you borrowed from them, or your relatives, or your cousins, you can minus the whole thing. Because per Shariat also, they have a right to knock at your door and demand that money at any time. Even if you had agreed, I'll pay you in 10 years' time. So therefore, you can minus the entire amount. So if you had borrowed, for example, you've got £50,000 on you, but you owe the uncles and the relatives and the family members 60,000, then do you need to give zakat on that 50,000? No, because in fact you are minus 10. But then this person also shouldn't be sluggish and shouldn't be careless, should try and pay off that debt ASAP. This is a quick zakat calculation. Don't worry, I won't make you do that. I'm a bit conscious of time. Do we have until 10 to 8? Because inshallah, in the next few slides, in the last 5 minutes, we'll be able to cover. This is a big calculation. Nevertheless, it's different types of money. If we had some extra time, you would have been able to do this. Yep.
Is that 12 months of payments? Does that extend to like car? You know, people have car leases, car finance as well.
Yeah. But if it's already established, it's not something which is going to be due yet. So if it's something, if it's a rent thing that as in they've not used the car yet, so if you're talking about for the future.
Yeah, so like, you know, some people will like get the car and then every month they pay £300.
Or you mean the rent?
It's a PCP, whatever the contract buyers.
So they'll call it a lease. A contract. Yeah, that's the thing. So you don't have it into your ownership yet. Yeah, you're going to get it afterwards. So you are, in fact, is it the same as renting, leasing? Leasing, yeah, so you can't, well, there's two views. One view is you can't minus the future. You can only minus that month's, because that is already due. You're using the car. So that money is already due. The next few months' money will become due, but that's when you use the car. So one argument. However, the second argument is that if you've signed the contract and you can't opt out and you will have to give, it's only that they're giving you time to make those timely payments, then you can minus the full 12 months. Okay, last few slides is, who can I give zakat to? The poor whose zakatable assets and surplus non-zakatable assets, if all added, don't reach the value of nisab. What does that mean? Look, if I've got £400, can you give me zakat? No. Because I am regarded wealthy. If I have only £200 and nothing else, can you give me zakat? I have only £200, nothing else, can you give me zakat? Yes, because I'm not wealthy, I don't have nisab equivalent. Now listen to this. I have £200, but I've got this phone which is worth £200. Can you give me zakat? You can't give me zakat. The reason being is, although I won't be giving zakat, because I don't have money, gold or silver, business assets, investments worth £350 or more, but when it comes to receiving zakat, whose zakatable assets and above basic needs, if the value is counted, then it reaches the nisab. So I've got £200 and this is a need? No. I'll see all the youngsters. Yeah, nothing there. Yeah, it's a need. It's not a need. So although I don't have to give zakat, but my £200 zakatable asset and non-zakatable but beyond my needs, if the value is added, it does reach over the nisab. Now that happens. I've had questions where someone's in Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, they're poor, but at home they've got a flat screen. Someone's given them, mashallah, smartphone. They've got some other gadgets. So yes, in cash form they may not have enough, but if you were to add these goods which are above basic needs, the value does reach nisab level, so you can't give it to them. Yeah, unless they have that and they have a outstanding debt of so many thousands, so then you can minus and they can still be due. So who can I not give zakat to? The non-poor, non-Muslim. Yes, give some voluntary charity to the non-Muslims, make food parks, distribute food, that's fine, but zakat can't be. A minor of a wealthy father, a minor, nabalik, a child whose father is rich, parents, grandparents, children, grandchildren. So can you give it to uncles, nephews? Got uncle back home, he's poor. Inshallah, you'll be rewarded twice. One is because of enjoining the kinship, and the other is, it's not parents and grandparents, it's not children and grandchildren. Similarly, brothers and sisters, can you give zakat to a brother or sister who is poor? Yes, because they're not parents above and they're not below children, grandchildren. For constructing hospitals, schools, masjids. Why? This is a golden principle. In zakat, tamlik is necessary. Tamlik means to transfer the money into the ownership of a person. Now, if you're going to use that zakat money to build a hospital, are you transferring into the ownership? No. Masjid, madrasa, darul ulums. Now, you might be thinking some darul ulums come and they'll say, oh, we collect your zakat money. But that's because they won't be using that money for their construction. They'll be having poor students coming in, so they'll be giving it to them to then pay off their fees, etc. Similarly, wells. You can't use that zakat money for wells and then it's accessible to everyone. However, there are some, if you go online, there are some charities, they accept zakat money for the hand pumps. And then when some people hear this, they think, why are they taking zakat money? But those hand pumps work differently. They install in people's houses. So what they do is, they use your zakat money, they make the hand pump, and they transfer it into the ownership of that family, of that poor person. Then it's fine. Burial expenses, someone dies, they leave behind no money, no relatives, no kin. Now the person is dead. Yes, as a society and community, we should raise funds, but you can't use zakat money, because zakat money, you have to transfer it into the ownership of a poor. He's dead now. Wages, remuneration, etc. This was just an example of Muhammad, Fatima, Uthman. That look, Muhammad has cash and silver worth 400 pounds. Will he have to give zakat? Yes, so he can't receive the zakat. He has to give zakat. Fatima, although she's got cash and gold worth 500, but she's in a debt of 400. So she can receive zakat. The house is a basic need, so we don't look at the value of the house. Look at Uthman. Uthman's the interesting one. He's got 50 pounds and 50 pounds. So will he have to give zakat? No, because cash, gold or silver, business assets is not worth the nisab. But look at the unused clothes. Look at the television. The value of the cash and silver 50-50, 150, 200, all will equal over 350. So although Uthman's not giving zakat, he can't receive zakat also. Okay, the last few slides. Who should I give my zakat to? Close relatives, double reward inshallah. Poor people who are residing locally, those who are in desperate emergency need, and particularly for those who will use that money to learn deen and spread deen. So finally, what do you need to do when you need to give zakat? Calculate how much money you have to give. Make the niyyah, either when separating money or giving it to the charity, to the poor. Again, alhamdulillah, we should be grateful of these charities that they go and do their homework. So we should be grateful. Similarly, the charities must understand that this is someone's amana and trust, so they should be fulfilling that correctly. Then see whether the poor is eligible to receive zakat or not, and then give it to them. Make them the complete owner, the poor person. Lastly is pay in cash or kind. Generally we pay in cash, but if a person does have cash, so for example, a few years back there was a pharmacy or so, and they had lots of medicine. Now there was an area in Africa or so where there was an immediate need for those medicines. So that pharmacy had to give so much zakat, so a big chunk of the zakat they gave in the medicine form. So it can, but as long as that value is equivalent to how much they owe in zakat. So zakatable assets minus whatever you owe others will give you the net zakatable assets. Jazakumullahu khairan. For those who are unfortunately unable to ask any questions, I do apologize, or afterwards as well, inshallah. From now till then, we can go through. Subhanallah wa bihamdih. Subhanakallah wa nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk.